Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Eva, and today I am going to be looking at the themes and energies for the week ahead, hopefully to help us all cope with whatever's coming for us and enjoy whatever there is to be enjoyed and just gain perspective before we enter the new week. And I asked my guides to choose 2 nature decks for this exercise and 1 tarot. So this is one of the nature decks that they chose. And I wanted to start with about 3 cards to just sort of ground us in nature before we look at the themes for the week. What can we take from nature's wisdom as we begin this new week? I find I'm often guided to go to nature, spend time in nature and that sort of thing. But recently it occurred to me that I can't, since I can't always do that, and I imagine many people feel that way, I could spend more time with my nature decks even each day. So that's what gave me the idea to start the reading and end the reading with a deck that is more or less aligned with nature. This deck doesn't have strictly nature imagery, but I counted it to start with, and we'll see how we go here. It also has a very rubbery cardstock. This is the Roots and Wings Oracle, I believe it's called. I will put the name of each deck I use in the description box below. I like to give credit to the creators of these decks and also let you know in case they interest you. Some of them won't always be in print anymore, of course, but they often are. Thank you, spirit guides, and I invite in our collective spirit guides who are only interested in our highest good, are protective and loving and merciful towards us, and want us to find the best way forward each day. Transformation is the card that flipped over when I said that. Yes, find the best way forward often involves we transform in some way as well. We transform our thoughts and our habits, transform our minds and our spirits. Top 3 cards, please, spirit guides. What do you have for us? Crafty is the fox. Sometimes we have to be crafty as the fox. I also see fox energy, especially when I'm using a Lenormand deck, as divine self-interest, meaning sometimes we need to be aware of what our self-interest is in the situation and find the divine way forward, meaning sometimes our self-interest is divine, right? It's not just selfishness. It's to be kind of stealthy like the fox, to do what we need to do in a situation. All right. I'm just having a hard time focusing in, so let me just quiet my mind for a moment and invite the top 3 cards that we're meant to have for the week ahead. All right. Put them up here. Goodness. I love that image with the person sort of seated here, like in the lotus position, with the reflection down here as if they're sitting at water, right? And then we have the sunshine above them. We have Rise, another very bright sunlit energy with the person standing on this green hillside with the rays of the sun lighting the sky into tones of pink. And then his arms are outstretched as if he's giving flight to this pack of birds here. And then Release. Okay. So the wisdom from nature comes more to me from the natural elements in these cards than perhaps the keywords on them. And as we go through the week's energies, we'll continue to look at these energies as well. Goodness, rise, release are the keywords. And even more, I feel a lot of sun energy, some uplift and flight, soaring energy, reflective energy, and this feels a little bit like the sowing of seeds, but it can also be, yes, tossing things out, composting old things into new fertile soil. We'll get back to these, but that's kind of where I'm starting at. So let's keep those in mind as we go into our tarot cards. Now, this is a very interesting deck. This is called the Ancestral Path Tarot by Julie Kuchia Watts. And in many ways, it's kind of its own thing. It has a lot of insight and depth from the different heritages and different cultures that it tries to represent. So I'm going to see how much of the traditional tarot meanings I feel coming through versus special messages because of the way this deck is written. I do happen to own the guidebook that is now out of print for this deck, and a lot of people can't get their hands on this anymore, so they may not know all the different things that the author, or rather the artist is not the author of the book, but I think the author of the book talked a lot to the artist and got their ideas for why they painted things the way they did. And each suit in this deck has a story, so to some degree I'll be drawing from that as well. And I'll be using reversals to draw 3 cards, but I will turn them upright so we can see the art on them best. All right, so as we head into the new week, I ask our collective guides and guardians here for our highest good to show us what we need to know for the week ahead, what we need to reflect on. This is not predictive. It's meant to be guidance. It's meant to be a way of looking at your week, not predictive for all of us, okay? Not telling us what's going to happen. So I'm going to bring forward whatever, please bring forward, Spirit, whatever reversals you want to have in this reading. I didn't get very many. Oh, there they come. Okay. And I like to check to see which one is still upright. Death is still upright, in case I drop the deck or something and I get confused. So we're asking for 3 cards now on the top of the deck to show us what we need to know this week to help us navigate the energies of this week. What do you need to tell us about our week ahead, Spirit guides? Alrighty, these are such big cards. 3 is all I want to try to do here. Alright, we get the Hierophant. That's a major arcana in the upright. Ooh, we get the High Priestess in the upright as well. That's another major arcana right in the center of the week. And the Magician. Oh my gosh. So this deck is well shuffled. I'll show you. I even turned over Death right at the start. So the Sun is in reverse. Strength, the Tower, 5 of Swords, 3 of Swords, 6 of Swords, 10 of Swords, Justice, the Hermit, and so on. That one there looks like it could be like... But I've used this for other readings, so there's no reason why these should be... That was... like that. Anyway, they just it's a big week, folks. That could be definitely on the world scale. You know, we could definitely see some major things come up, and that's why we need to tap into these ancient and vast and powerful energies. These are archetypal energies, so I'll go through them one by one. We also did not get any reversals. The Hierophant is those who guide us and lead us. We can enjoy, we can be in harmony with our leaders and teachers and so forth, or we can disagree with them, right? And we can find ourselves in the minority of those who agree with them or disagree, or in the majority. So it's raising that issue of leadership and trusting the people who are talking to us, whether that be in our own lives, say our teachers, professors, and so on, government officials, or whether it be on a world scale. Guidance for us as we navigate this week. Wow. We, in some ways, are being asked to be our own hierophants, be our own moderators. These two pillars, I believe they stand for whatever the two pillars in the Bible are outside the temple. The makers of the tarot, modern tarot at least, borrowed from that idea. And I think it's severity, basically severity and mercy. So between severity and mercy is the teacher. And we need to be that for ourselves to a large degree. You can see how she's staring straight ahead at us, right? These two people are doing ritual service at her feet because they are like acolytes. They are still learning. And we are probably some of both. We are probably somewhat the acolyte and somewhat the teacher. So we need to decide if we are in a position to know our own authority, or whether we still need to learn some things and decide if we can trust the authorities. Okay? Hierophant energy can be very triggering because we live in times, and our ancestors have lived in times of great abuses of power, both in the government and in religion, those two huge forces that tend to control civilizations. And so because of that, the Hierophant can be a very triggering energy. So it's asking you to be your own best guide. That also means knowing when to follow authority, right? And when to question. Not necessarily rebel against authority, but at least question authority. Then we have, in the middle here, the High Priestess. She is one of my, these two are both favorites of mine. And when they come up together, that is even extra potent. I love her because she is the receiver of wisdom, and she protects wisdom. She holds it here. You see it's closed. It's like a hidden kind of knowledge to a large degree. And she's also sitting between these two dark and light pillars here. I think, in fact, typically in the tarot, she's the one between the pillars, and the Hierophant is not between these dark and light pillars, but they just borrowed that for this card as well, because these are both positions of spiritual knowing. This one tends to be more what has been handed down by the ancestors in the holy texts, and I can then teach the holy texts. This one tends to be, even though she's holding a holy text, this one tends to be more, what do I know from within? What is my inner guidance telling me? So that's an interesting contrast right there. And on top of that, we have the Magician. So he's almost her counterpart to some degree. In another sense, the Hierophant is her counterpart. She tends to represent moon energy. He tends to represent sun and yang energy. He tends to have all the tools of the tarot. All the suits are represented in his card because he is the master of these different tools, and he channels them from above to the earth, right? He brings in power from the higher realms, spiritual realms, and he manifests something to do with that on the earth. So we are being guided to really go to our inner knowing. That doesn't mean fear, paranoia, or suspicion. Okay, those things are not of the higher realms. True instinctual fears, like if you have a wolf at your door or that kind of thing, that's a gift to have an instinctual fear of actual danger. But in our modern times, we get hung up on pretend dangers or sort of like generalized anxiety. And that is not from above. That is just giving into, I kind of want to say lizard brain, but I almost think that does a disservice to our brains and to the lizards. But it isn't that kind of inner knowing. It's the inner knowing that transcends the physical world and taps into intuition. Okay, it's not instincts like you have to flee or to freeze. It's intuition that you only tap into when you quiet your racing thoughts and you listen to what's beyond them. That's what she does here. She's sort of the oracle, listening to what's coming through her and speaking that. Wow, I am really amazed by these 3 major arcana. That's unusual. It's kind of a big deal. I'll take a moment to just check the guidebook on these. Okay, so I consulted the guidebook. And it's interesting because the guidebook, well, first of all, talks about her being the oracle at Delphi, receiving transmissions, but it also talks about her being the one who deals with knowledge that's been written down, handed down, right? And this one does say that she deals with the inner knowing. So it goes along with what I said, it just gives a few more details that surprised me. And I think what I'll do is ask Spirit to tell us why we're getting such big cards for the week ahead using this little deck here. And I will also try to tie these things here. Being grounded in goodness is always a helpful thing, especially if you remember that goodness is like the sunshine, meaning it isn't dependent on us, on mankind, and it is extremely reliable. Sure, you may live somewhere where there's a lot of cloud cover or storms at the moment, but you know the sun is still there and it's still creating daylight, and it will return in full force eventually. The sun is our sense of kind of the rightness of the universe. Without it, we'd all perish. And that's probably why the sun was such a universally worshipped symbol in the past, in ancient times. So many different groups of people who'd never spoken to each other and couldn't speak the same language still had sun gods and sun goddesses and so forth. So why are we getting these large energies for the week ahead, Spirit? Duality is an interesting card. We kind of have some duality here between her and him. The sense of two opposing forces, where we can either fight those opposing forces and let them fight, let them be in opposition, or we can find the harmony in between. We can bring together harmony. I know that the Buddhists emphasize non-duality, where we don't see ourselves at odds with other forces. We look to be in harmony, that all things are part of the same web of life. So the trees are, we are all connected. The trees need us and we need the trees, and so on. These symbiotic relationships speak to our oneness and our non-duality. And duality is about seeing us as separate from each other, basically othering other people. Anytime you see another group of people and think they are so different from me, they are scary because they are different from me, that's duality. That's treating us as separate, really, from our universal humanity. What else, Spirit, please? Why are we getting such large cards? Guarded, okay, that kind of goes along with that sense of opposing forces, putting your hand up, feeling like, no, I'm not going to find common ground with you. This could be on a very small scale. It could be you within your household, or you within your neighborhood, or you within your workplace, anything like that, friendships. Or it could be that we're all going to see something play out on the world stage, that it's going to leave us feeling guarded, or are the people around us acting in a very guarded and dualistic way? Us versus them kind of way. What else? One more, please, Spirit. Why are we getting Major Arcana? Whoops, that was 2. I really just wanted that top one. Time. Let's take this one too. Time and inner vision. We have this sense of the moon, and we do have an eclipse coming up this week. This gives me eclipse feelings too. I think because the eclipses tend to open up new timelines. For us, it's a hard concept for me even to grasp or talk about, but I've lived it myself, so I get it. It's just I haven't practiced speaking about it, but we do have everyday life, and then we have our destiny in a sense, and we can be more in tune with our destiny and more out of tune with it, I think. We can get more done versus wasting our opportunities. And I do feel the eclipse is bringing in, even if you don't see it in the world, you may feel it in your body. You may feel the charge of the eclipse time. You may feel a charged energy. And other people will be feeling that too. And so it might bring about some opposition, some clashing. And this card reminds us to be like the High Priestess and trust your intuition. Again, not your fight or flight instincts necessarily, unless you're really up against true danger. But the anxiety that we feel is often a generalized anxiety, and it makes us want to fight or flee. But what we really need to do is ground and go inward and listen, quiet our minds, and even meditate. A lot of us will have different things come forward when we meditate. I tend to be clairvoyant, so meaning I see visions versus hearing things. Other people will mostly hear something when they are in a trance-like state. She's actually got her eyes rolled back, the guidebook said, and so she is in trance right there. So just if you're one person who likes to meditate or has never tried it and is curious, I encourage you to meditate this week and just be kind to yourself. The meditation is meant to be a kind act in which we quiet our modern minds and get back in touch with our bodies and the rhythms around us, the rhythms of the room that we're in, the rhythms of the planet, the rhythms of the moon and sun and skies, the birds, etc. It's meant to be a kind act, and it can be a very short act or it can be a very long act. You decide. It can be guided, or someone else is speaking you through your meditation, or it can be just you being silent and letting what will come through come through. That is what I would probably do, or will probably do, given what I'm seeing here. We have one last card to take here to close out the reading with a little more nature. This is the Soulflower Plant Spirit Oracle. Thank you, Spirit, for this resource here. Thank you for all these decks and those who helped them come into being and those who helped me have this copy. I thank you for those gathered here and those guides who are ministering to us throughout this week. And in this reading, I ask you now to seal this reading with a final card for us at this time. Tranquility. Oh, red clover. How pretty. This grows naturally in my yard and probably in many places you've been. You might remember it from your childhood. Here in the States anyway, it's very, very common in the Midwest where I live. Red clover helps support a sense of clarity, individuality, and self-awareness in the midst of our chaotic and often negative world. She is a calm and steady presence, helping you to remain balanced and to think and act from your center of truth, despite whatever may be taking place around you. Exactly. this center of truth, despite what may be happening around you and in the energies of the eclipse week. The eclipse season really starts off, maybe a week or two before we actually see the eclipses happen. There's 2 eclipses back to back, usually a lunar and then a solar one 2 weeks later. And then that energy teaches us something new for the next 6 months if you pay attention to it. And I basically do that through meditation and journaling and watching for signs and synchronicities and things like that. Well, I hope that was some grace and guidance for you this week. And I thank you so much for joining me. And I look forward to doing this again soon with you all. Until next time, I wish you all the best. Please take care. Have a wonderful week.